Welcome to the first radio program of Heart of the Moon, thanks to the Chesapeake radio station. Surrender to love. Surrender to the universe. Surrender to your soul. Hello everyone, this is Tom Gower from Heart of the Moon. I just wanted to give a brief overview of the topics that we're going to be discussing during the public speaking on March 7th and 8th of 2020, such as my testimony and the topic of symbolism and why I believe the Crees have a lot to offer to the ascension process. It's with great pleasure and joy to be able to consult and speak to everyone such as it is. I have a wonderful and shocking announcement to share with you. In the past, the policies of Canada took me away from my mother and birth family. I had many challenges to overcome. I was 24 years old and lived in a strange reality. I heard only me. And I thought, there was only one artist in the world, Leonardo da Vinci, and I was looking forward to meeting him in person one day. All I had to do was get to Italy somehow. Then one night, my conscience turned on. In a matter of moments, my reality changed while I was awake. There was only one thing I thought of to do, and that was go outside and howl at the moon. So that's what I did. I howled at the moon, and I shared my newfound consciousness with the neighbors. But they weren't too pleased. But after that, my life became more vibrant. I heard people other than just myself. I listened to them, got to know them. It was very nice. And I realized Leonardo da Vinci had actually passed on, and there was more than just one artist in the world. All it took was a tiny bit of spiritual food, and my world leveled up. Then I was reunited with my birth mother and family. My world changed again. I learned about Cree society as a whole, how they managed to preserve their culture with values such as consultation and sharing. I dove in and learned about how they put themselves in the most favorable conditions to survive and flourish. But it took work for them and independent initiative, often by individuals. Investigation into the right conditions for a family survival. When I hunted, I got a taste of my family's traditions for survival. When I went to school, I learned about Cree society's traditions for survival, and both of them are very similar. Basic rules to ensure survival. That was it. Then I realized the Cree studied the future, and that's been something of a benefit for them. So that's what I did. I touched upon and studied humanity, the Crees, and my own future. It took me a while, but I learned the skills that I thought I might need in the future that I saw for myself. It's been an awakening journey from the time I was born until now. Years ago I realized it's not just me, it's you and me. And there are universal truths, like values to ground us, like consultation and sharing. And the Crees studied the future for the best conditions to survive and thrive. When you think about it, it's a basic building foundation for self-sufficiency. I believe one of the best ways to help Mother Earth is enlightenment, and then take it further, share it with your neighbors. The Crees have these grounding principles or values that helped ensure survival. They got tested. Did they work? You're here, aren't you? I learned years ago, it's not just me, it's you and me, which is why I'm consulting with you. First, I want to enlighten you. In 2011, I started to wake up to the world. I started to notice the signs of the times. News reports, television and music had changed. And for some reason, the signs of the times triggered something inside me. In December 2017, I started to wake up to my identity. For the first time in my life, I consciously followed the silent voice of my soul. Soon after, I communicated to the spiritual universe I had woken up to my identity. Eventually, I realized the spiritual universe had been consulting with me for all my life. As I said, it's been an awakening journey. But before I cut to the chase, I give a lot of credit to the spiritual universe, God the universe. They saved my life at least twice, and I believe they assisted to make the conditions favorable for my own survival. But it wasn't easy, but I made it through. But it was time for a change. It's not just about survival. Rejoice, the Lord is nearby. My true identity, one of the witnesses of Revelation 11, servant of God the universe, helper of Jesus, almond and olive tree. I believe Jesus' astrology follows a path similar to Prometheus of myth. My life and astrology follow a path similar to Chiron the centaur of myth. As above, so below. Hello, everyone. It's not just me, it's you and me. All of us are spiritual beings here to have an earthly experience, which means all of us use the same universal truths to stay grounded and to keep our head above the ground. The Crees have studied the future, and it looks like it helped out a lot. So here's a question for Iuistchi. Are conditions favorable enough for Earth's survival and yours? I believe that's a question only Earth and yourselves can answer. However, I can make a contribution to answering that question. Again, it is a pleasure to consult and speak to you all such as it is, because reality has changed. Humanity has walked into a new door. But the Crees already have a terrific foundation for survival, made up of universal truths for self-sufficiency, and they even got tested. But I'm sure you realize this. There's more to it than just surviving. There's thriving. Once you think about it, thriving is automatically part of the Cree self-sufficiency model. Build on top of that foundation and dive into the flow of life. Enlightenment and then share. But this time, Heart of the Moon wants to howl at the moon or share their vision in a more pleasing way, and to get to know Cree society even more. Heart of the Moon would like to consult and share their vision of surviving and thriving in person with the Cree people, their neighbors, and at the same time taking some choice rabbit and dumplings. Aguda, aguda. Howl at the moon. You made it too. Pat yourselves on the back. Celebrate. Do something. Know this. All of you are loved. Surrender to love. Surrender to the universe. Surrender to your soul. But first, a musical break. Welcome back. We got a file to run by you, so let's get into it. The Cree model of self-sufficiency has caught the attention of Heart of the Moon. And like I said, Heart of the Moon would like to get to know the Crees better in person through consultation. But there are challenges to overcome, like language. But there are things available to overcome challenges. One of those things is willpower. The Crees have proven that for sure. Another is time. The consultation desired by Heart of the Moon with the Crees is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Also, Heart of the Moon is happy to do their part, turn over some stones, but not all of them. So, we encourage everyone to do their part as well. For example, I'll leave signposts like, Look at Prometheus's mythology. Check for yourselves if it matches the Lord's profile or not. Also, one way the spiritual universe communicates to us is by symbolism. Often there are multiple meanings in artwork. So different meanings resonate with different people. Someone could have a unique viewpoint on a piece of artwork that no one else understands. It could be a special message for them, or a message that needs to be shared with everyone. The universe desires to share spiritual food with us, and that's universal. So symbolism is one way, but not the only way the universe speaks to us. So, relooking at the world around us through symbolism can help us boost our knowledge. Symbolism is universal. It can bridge the language barrier, so it puts responsibility on each of us to turn over our own stones. That's your journey. The first topic I want to briefly go over is symbolism. And when I discuss it in person, let's see if you can discern for yourselves what messages are embedded in the visuals and non-visuals. I want to share my opinion of the Ark of the Covenant. Inside it, the golden pot of manna and Aaron's rod, which was from an almond tree. The golden pot symbolizes the Holy Spirit. Aaron's rod symbolizes a portion of God. During the Exodus, the cloud represents a portion of God. The fire represents the Holy Spirit. The Levites represents a portion of God in the real world. The manna that fell from the sky or heaven that fed Israel in the desert represents the Holy Spirit in the real world. That was the Old Testament. In the New Testament, in myth, Prometheus, the firebringer, is a portion of God who shared the sacred fire with humanity. Heart of the Moon believes the myth of Prometheus, the firebringer, matches with Jesus, because Jesus is a portion of God who shares the Holy Spirit, the sacred fire, with humanity. So there's some homework for you. And if you like this and understand this and knows how to speak Cree, then help translate it for others. So what symbolizes God in the Ark of the Covenant? Well, we can start by referring to God's revelation to Elijah. It was demonstrated to Elijah that God is not a physical form, rather a still small voice, a whisper. Only two things went inside the ark. The rest was space, which is symbolic. We know air is made up of molecules, so it's something but nothing at the same time. In the inside of the ark, even the space is symbolic. The space or air symbolizes a still small voice, a whisper, and that's God. A cloud is very similar. It's something but nothing. That's why the cloud symbolizes a portion of God in the real world. God is not in the fire. God is in the cloud. That's why there's a pillar of cloud and a pillar of fire. They're separate. The zero could represent God because it's something yet nothing. But more on that later. Outside the ark are the cherubim. Rabbi Nachmanides thought the cherubim were manifestation of the hidden wisdom inside the ark. Heart of the Moon believes something very similar. Take a look at the substance of our universe. When we pull back and get a big view of our universe, we see the universe divided into two things, the light and dark. And then if we go back to Genesis, the universe or life issued from the void. And then the light and dark were separated. God, the source of life, is symbolized in the ark as space or air. The Lord, a portion of God, is symbolized as Aaron's rod. The Holy Spirit is symbolized as the golden pot of manna. The universe, or life, is symbolized in the cherubim, the light and dark of the universe. And, like I said in the beginning, the spiritual universe wants to share spiritual food with us. But there's also a language barrier to overcome. So one way of bridging the language barrier is symbolism. I wasn't raised on Jewish traditions, nor was I very familiar with the meanings of their sacred objects or their language. But I didn't need to know all that, because the universe communicates through symbolism, and the ark's symbolism communicated to me. Symbolism can be used for teaching, or can be used to communicate messages, personally or to the collective. The symbolism of the ark is beautiful because it communicates. We don't need to see with our eyes to get messages. If the universe is connected to Source as it's symbolized in the ark, then the source of life can communicate in a supernatural type of way outside of our sensory perception, like through our heart, mind, or spirit. Lastly, I just want to mention the cherubim can also represent a man and a woman. So, Iuischchi, I heard you like studying the future, so there you go. Figure that one out for a future discussion with you. Aguda, aguda. Coming up in another message is another brief overview of a topic. The topic is mythology. And we're going to be talking about the mythology of Aquarius, the water bringer, and divider. Here's something different. Go out and howl at the moon, or be still as a whisper. Here's something to think about during the music break. The Crees have a lot to offer to themselves and to the world. Agda, agda. That brings it in nice. We got another file here, folks. It's hot off the press. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. We're back with a continuation of the topic of symbolism. Like I said, consulting with Iuischchi will have challenges, but there are things working for us. Such as, when you think about it, basic values naturally weave a spirit of cooperation and sometimes friendship between parties. Consulting will take place if both parties are in agreement, that's for sure. Let me explain why Heart of the Moon believes Cree society has a lot to offer to themselves and to the world. The universe has already communicated to the Crees through their teachings and values, because the Cree model of self-sufficiency is woven into a spiritual process. Two of those values have been mentioned already: consulting and sharing. You got a crash course in symbolism in the last message, and like I said, symbolism can bridge the communication barrier. Another way the spiritual universe communicates to humanity is through mythology, which is a combination of story and symbolism. And I'm sure if you go back and re-look at Cree legends, I bet you'll realize that the spiritual universe has communicated with the Crees through story as well. There's another way to overcome the language barrier, the combination of symbolism and story, which is why Heart of the Moon would like to share their viewpoint on mythology with the Crees. I would like to go through some key points of the mythology of Aquarius, the water bringer. I'm not going through all of it, just key points, because mythology can be independently researched. So take those key points, and I encourage everyone to turn over their own stones and do their own research. I believe one of the best ways to learn something is duplication. The same thing, but in a different way. Aquarius, the water bringer, turns things on their side and then divides them, which could change or level things up in a blink of an eye. You know, I often wonder why Aquarius, the water bringer, is an air sign. And then I realized Aquarius can also have the nickname Aquarius, the divider, because Aquarius energy divides things. Water is made up of two molecules, oxygen and hydrogen. If you look up into the sky of the constellation Aquarius, the water bringer turned water on its side, but Aquarius is air. So Aquarius had to divide the water. The O is oxygen, which is air. That's why Aquarius is an air sign. The Crees know the language of the animals, which is another way the universe speaks to us. The dragonfly symbolically captures the energy of Aquarius. The dragonfly begins in the water, but will skip land and go right to air. So, symbolically, water gets divided, air gets chosen, and then the dragonfly levels up in a blink of an eye. So there's one example. Aquarian energy is based off of the myth of Ganymede, the cupbearer to the gods. It's very similar to what I just mentioned. So take the key words and do your own research. Ganymede's world got turned on its side in an instant, and his world was split in two. While Ganymede watched over his father's flocks, Zeus used the energy of an eagle to carry off Ganymede into the heavens, where he became cupbearer to the gods, which symbolizes the ascension process. But more on that later. Ganymede's world got turned on its side. Symbolically, the bond between Ganymede and his father got divided. Zeus chooses Ganymede, and Ganymede levels up in a blink of an eye. He gets put in charge of water up in heaven. But think for a moment. Do you think that's fair? Think about the situation as a Cree, as a tallyman. Think about this. Zeus comes down into Iwischi, takes all the beaver from a tallyman's hunting territory, takes them up into heaven, turns over a huge profit with Sycabon takeouts. Now that's fair for the gods, because they get Sycabon. But is that fair for the tallyman? If Zeus doesn't share some of the profits with the tallyman, the Cree tallyman will most likely organize a court case against Zeus to get compensated. In the imaginary scene, the tallyman has a very good case too, because Zeus bypassed a few things. First, he did not consult with the tallyman. If he did, him and the tallyman could have made an arrangement between both of them, where both parties are in agreement of a beneficial transaction. However, in the myth, Zeus does compensate Ganymede's father. He energetically balances the situation out. But do you see anything else that's not fair? The situation got compensated, but Ganymede went up into heaven with no say of his own. Today, we live in a free will universe. If Zeus did that today to a tallyman, he would be interfering with the tallyman's free will, similar to if someone blocks our way on the street. Another example, Apparently, the angel Gabriel caused Zechariah not to speak. If Gabriel did that today, he would be interfering with our free will. Today, in the ascension process, the universe consults with us first. So there you go. The Cree values of consultation and sharing, or compensation, are woven into the ascension process and usher in a spirit of cooperation. Think about it. The universe has been consulting with the Crees in their own way for a long time. That's why I believe the Crees have a lot to offer to themselves and to the world. And to the gods, like delicious Sikabon takeouts. Aguda, aguda. Well, does that pique your interest? The music was brought to you by Purple Planet Music, Reach for the Sky, and bandsound.com. Thanks for hanging out with Heart of the Moon. We sure loved having you around. And this concludes the first program of Heart of the Moon. So come out and do something for a change and howl at the moon. We got a schedule planned, but we're pretty flexible. Don't forget, we're going to be at the Michwap Auditorium between 2 and 4 p.m. on March 7th and 8th of 2020. Look for updates on tomgower.com, Heart of the Moon Spirituality, on the public speaking page. And check out our website. We got a lot there.